Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. I am here to talk about some of the TV shows and movies that I have watched over the last quarter of 2025. So without further ado, let's jump into the TV shows, starting with October. So we are jumping into Alien Earth, that released around that time on Disney Plus. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. It is set in the alien world, the alien universe, and it's kind of like a prequel really. So this was heavy, but honestly I really did enjoy it. I believe it was set before the original movie, so you do see more of that rivalry between the big 5 advanced tech companies, which I really liked. With this one we learn more about Prodigy, which is one of the tech companies that we're focusing on in particular. So it makes me wonder if we're going to get any more seasons, if it's going to focus on other companies. That would be quite cool, I think. But anyway, Prodigy has the boy Wonder, who basically rules that whole division, I guess you could say, and he's basically a prodigy. He's advanced for his younger years and he's achieved so much within the tech industry, but he thirsts for more knowledge, more power, and is quite toxic and crazy actually. So with Prodigy, they were interested initially in creating a cross between human consciousness with the goal of, you know, creating immortality in a sense, but Boy Wonder in particular finds more joy in stumbling upon and stealing Wayland's crashed cargo. So we do follow the POV of Wendy in this season, and I thought it was such a great perspective. All of the enhanced humans, I guess you could say, are named after Peter Pan characters, which adds a bit of an unsettling yet whimsical vibe to the whole thing. This show was thrilling, it was entertaining, scary, gory, and really emotional. The music at the end of the episodes felt really jarring though in relation to the show, and that always kind of put me off because I wasn't expecting like a rock anthem to come on, and every time it did, it really freaked me out a little bit, took me out of it, but luckily we were at the end, so it didn't really matter. Following on, I watched the next season of Goosebumps, which is called The Vanishing, and I gave this one a 3.5 stars. It was really silly, really goofy, and a bit plot holey, but it was super entertaining, and the end credit songs were always bangers in contrast to Alien Earth. I do wish that it was more connected with the other series that we got like the year before, but it was still enjoyable. It's like its own contained story, so you don't feel like you're missing anything if you haven't watched the season 1 and you are just jumping into this. But yeah, it was still enjoyable to meet a new group of characters with a new story and kind of have that wrapped up. Okay, we're going on to November now for TV shows, and I ended up watching Out There, which I gave a 4 stars. This is another one that was on Disney Plus. So far very Disney Plus heavy. This is a documentary series with just 8 episodes, so it's pretty short, but each one kind of followed a different culture or locational myth and legend. More so on the legend side, I would say. It was always around a crime that had happened and the ghost stories or monster stories that were kind of tied up into the actual crime itself. So that crime almost took on legendary properties because it was so imbued with the folklore and the superstitions of that town. So not only were you getting details on some cold cases as well as some resolved cases, but you also got a lot of lore and superstitions around what the people believe to be actually happening in a more paranormal way. I really did enjoy this. I feel like I got a glimpse at some theories and paranormal legends that maybe I hadn't had much exposure to, but I do feel like they handled particular missing people's or murdered people's stories well also. A lot of the time we had direct relations or friends of the people that were harmed to tell their story at the same time, so I thought that was quite thoughtful and it helped deliver actual facts alongside the more kind of supernatural theories that went alongside it. Right, once again, can you believe it, we're still on Disney Plus. So this was American Horror Stories, and this was season 2 for me, so I watched this and I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So I do have a few things to say about some episodes, not everything really, but I thought I'd break down the ones that, you know, I had more opinions about rather than talking about every single episode, even if they weren't that interesting. But anyway, here we are. So episode 1 was Doll's House, and I feel like it started off the season pretty strongly. If you know me, you know I'm obsessed with anything miniatures, particularly pertaining to Doll's Houses. So having a horror story feature in that as the theme, with the toy maker being corrupt and evil, kidnapping, you know, women to put in his very own real life doll's house for his son, was super creepy and enjoyable. It wasn't super scary in the vibes of, oh my gosh, this is terrifying, but more so a bit unsettling and just exciting to watch overall, really. I also liked the era that it was set in. Just when I thought the ending was going to throw me and make me feel a little bit like, that was weak, it alluded to one of my favourite seasons, so it threw me right back into a really good episode for me. Episode 2 was called Aura, and honestly this was pretty freaky, combining not only the fear of a home invasion but the fear of a failing security system that's supposed to relieve that anxiety. It was so good to see the return of the actress Gabure Sidibe as our lead character Jazz. The husband was such a douche. Talk about belittling your partner's trauma. This was a really good episode, but I did have to watch it in parts because it really did freak me out. So skipping on to episode 4, this was Milkmaids, and it was quite an interesting one, blending this kind of supernatural occult with the way of modern medicine and the curing of smallpox. It wasn't my favourite episode, but I did like it enough to want to share a few thoughts, and that was the above. Episode 5 saw Bloody Mary, which was better than I thought it was going to be when I first started watching. I wasn't expecting this double twist at the end, but I quite liked this new backstory to the legend that a lot of people are kind of clued into. Honestly, the above few episodes were the most noteworthy, and everything else felt a little bit forgettable, although I did like Facelift, but I watched that one in 2 parts over a long stretch of time, so again it's, you know, pretty much forgettable for me. I was watching all these typically in a quicker succession as I have done in the past, as I was really gearing up to a possible new season, but it looks like it's the first year, 2025 that is, ever that they've taken a break, which is interesting. Apparently 2026 promises to bring back the OG cast, so I'm really looking forward to this, and hopefully, you know, I have some sort of anticipation that it's going to actually deliver fear like it used to back in like season 1, season 2, so I'm looking forward to that. I've got high hopes. Following on, I checked out an anime called Interviews with Monster Girls. This one was a season 1. I don't know if there's a season 2 out. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. It was so much fun. And honestly, the title is pretty much self-explanatory. Aside from the fact that it's set in like a high school and the teacher has done like a thesis on like demi-humans. And he's always had like this special interest, so when some start coming to the school that he teaches at, he takes an interest in wanting to interview them just to learn more about these different kind of superhumans, I suppose. Anyway, this was so much fun. I loved seeing how each demi-human finds similarities with others despite being the only one of their type in the school. A lot of it was wholesome, it was funny and entertaining, but there was some really problematic content with the romanticising of a teacher and student kind of relationship, I guess. It just felt super predatory, of course, and not really acceptable. There were so many scenes that the teacher should have just shut down that were really creepy. I hope season 2, if it does go ahead, gets rid of that, because outside of this, the show was really sweet. Would like to just note as well, before I move on, that I have been listening sort of on and off to a podcast. That's the Magnus Archives, and I've recently finished season 2. I just wanted to mention really that I was trying to fall asleep on one occasion, which is what I usually do. I listen to this as like a sleep timer. But one of the creators really began to start sounding like salad fingers, and then I couldn't sleep because I started thinking of rusty spoons and the red milk. But yeah, I really enjoyed this series, and how the story has progressed, it really does feel like it's creating like a main story arc now, rather than just these extracts of interviews that they're reading back, and yeah, of weird instances that people have experienced. It actually feels like things are connecting. Anyway, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Oh my god, I really wish I'd have watched this more closely together, but I really enjoyed this adaptation. I don't know why it took me like a year or something to finish watching the last 4 episodes. I forgot about it. Other things popped up and that fell to the bottom of the list. But anyway, it was much better than the movie, but it did feel rushed with only being around 8 episodes. I feel like it did skim quite a bit, and it was adding things that the anime goes into depth far later in the story, way too soon for the show. I don't know if that made much sense. I did think the actors were brilliant, and it had a lot of the emotional depth that the anime excelled in, which I was really happy about. Okay, and for December I only watched 2 TV shows in full. Both of them are anime or animated TV shows, and the first one being Ranma Half season 2. It just ended so surprisingly for me. I thought there was going to be another episode, and I actually clicked back on to watch the next episode and there was no more. I was not a fan of the fan service, being a bit like pervy and lewd, but aside from that, it's another really funny and goofy show. We're following Ranma, who is a boy that does martial arts, and he is set to marry Akane, who is like not an opposing, but yeah, I guess so, martial arts student. And with Ranma, he went to these like springs to do some extreme training, and he fell into this spring that is I think it's called the Spring of the Drowned Girl. So every time hot water goes on him now, he turns into a girl. So yeah, it's a really strange one. I think it's a redo of an older anime by the same name, which I might have to check out to see how they do that. But anyway, the last TV show that I watched in December was the Digital Circus, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I literally put this on because I recognised the main character as Baby No Money's cosplay. The first episode and a half, I wasn't super into it, but then I rewatched it because my partner fell asleep whilst watching it, and he was still like, yeah, let's give it a go again. So we rewatched them and blitzed straight through and found it really grew on me. The ending was really fucked up though, and I was left stunned and kind of upset. Okay guys, let's quickly whiz on to the movies that I watched in the same time period. So once again, we are skipping back to October, and with that I began the month with Indiana Jones The Last Crusade, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. This was a lot of fun. I have been working my way through the Indiana Jones movies over those last couple of months, so yeah, it was good to kind of continue on with this. I had such a great time watching it. Physical treasure wasn't found, but I guess you could say the breakthrough relationship of a father and son was treasure enough. Aww. I then went to the movies to watch Tron, which, oh my god, that feels like a lifetime ago now. I enjoyed this one. I gave it a 3 stars. With this one I had a lot of fun, quite the emotional impact, what with Eve and her sister, Julian and his mum eventually, and Ares and life. Going into this, I think I may have seen just the second movie at some point as a kid, but I definitely didn't remember it. I didn't feel like that impacted my viewing negatively at all, although I am sure that I missed out on a lot of subtle references and Easter eggs. I'd probably watch the next one, but I don't feel the urgent need to watch the first or second again, despite knowing people would argue that they are the superior films. Realising now that I probably should have talked about this before I talked about my TV shows, because I have a little note here regarding podcasts. And back again, we're with the Magnum Archives. This time, going backwards, I just wanted to shed a few thoughts on season 1, which I ended up giving a 5 stars. I had 1 episode left, and I started this around 2024. I don't know why I do this to myself, but this is the second example in this video now where I have like very little episodes of something left and I don't get back to it till like a year later. But anyway, it was really eerie, really enjoyable, creepy horror podcast. For fans of the Killian Frequency, if you've ever watched that, it used to be on Netflix, but now it's not. I think you can find it on YouTube, but it's that sort of vibe. It's a long one. I think there was maybe like 40 episodes in this season, and of course it is still ongoing. But yeah, those are some thoughts on season 1. Jumping into November, I watched a horror movie. This was Antlers, and I gave this one a 4 stars. We're on the Disney Plus kick again. I really enjoyed this. It had a quite unnerving sort of tension pulsing throughout the story, among the more jump scare and body gore horror. The backstory behind the teacher's life was heartbreaking, as was the story of the young family at the heart of it. I do wish these themes and the legend behind the fear was explored more, but it was super gripping, emotional and terrifying, and it's one of those movies that I think you should just kind of stick on and roll with it rather than researching kind of the depths of what it's about. I then felt like watching Hercules, and I had just this itch that I needed to scratch, and it was satisfied after watching that, and I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And honestly, I don't think I'd ever seen this before, but it was so much fun. The music was great, and it was just an all-round brilliant time. felt like something else cozy and kind of nostalgic, so I put on Treasure Planet, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. This was such a beautiful movie. I definitely have seen this one before as a child because the concept was familiar to me and I definitely recognised some scenes, but this was probably the first time watching it properly and I thought it was fantastic. I also loved the bonus content such as the alternate ending and the prologue clips that was included in the Disney Plus viewing. Overall, this was an emotional, adventurous movie about a young man's internal growth, seeking adventure, chasing his childhood dreams and staying true to himself. Then I went on my kick for Men in Black. I don't know why I was obsessed with wanting to watch the original 3 films, but I did that pretty much back to back. So starting off with just the original, the OG, Men in Black, I gave that one a 4 out of 5 stars. This was so good. It's another movie that I've definitely seen as a child, but to sit and watch it properly was so much fun. I don't remember it being so hilarious as I found it to be this viewing, so that was fun. I love the plot and the secrets of the galaxies. Men in Black 2, I ended up giving a 3.5 stars, so a little bit less, but this was a little bit more silly than the first movie, but I did have a good time watching it and I enjoyed Jay's and Kay's more fleshed out characters. And then for Men in Black 3, I liked this one the most. I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. Oh, the tears I cried at the end of this movie. There were so many reveals and such a fantastic plot and character growth. Really, from the first movie until this one is where it just skyrocketed. I did feel that the prior 2 felt so quick in runtime, but it was non-stop action and excitement. Number 3 had all of that, plus a gut-wrenching finale that took my breath away. I adored this one the most for sure, and yeah, it was a fantastic series of movies. I will go back eventually and watch the Men in Black International, but I've sort of stopped for a little while. I then went on and checked out a newer release. This was 28 years later, and unfortunately I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 stars, and to be honest, I didn't want to watch this, but I did. I wasn't a fan of the camera angling and the strange back and forth insight to this alpha phenomenon. It was a jarring watch. There was some decent scenes and I thought Spike's actor was really good, especially when it became apparent that he'd be the lead protagonist carrying the movie. I did like that it was literally about humanity and the relationship between a child and his parents. Those were the scenes that felt the most moving to me. You know, that you could still have grief in this form on top of the craziness of the outside world and everything that's going on. The ending was really stupid though. I think the beginning just leading up to that ending was unnecessary and cringe. It was like they were trying to go for a Clockwork Orange vibe, but yeah, why? I don't know. I do believe there's a couple more films like following on from this now with this same sort of style, this same director and that, so I don't know if I'm gonna, I mean, when it's on telly, yeah, maybe, but I definitely won't, for now at least. I don't think I'll be going to the cinema to see it. I didn't go to the cinema to see this one, I watched it on telly, but yeah, I would have been annoyed paying for it like that. Anyway, wrapping it up with December, I watched Troll 2, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. I thought this was pretty fun, surprisingly emotional too, and I wasn't expecting a sequel, but yeah, probably didn't need to exist, but I'm glad I watched it. I don't really have much more to say than that. Continued once again with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I gave it 3 stars. This was pretty fun, very outrageous and dramatic, and a little bit too much at times, but I like the storytelling, though a bit extra for an alien story overall. Yeah, I enjoyed my favourite heroine from the franchise coming back again. A new movie that I was super excited for was the Knives Out mystery Wake Up Dead Man. This is the 3rd in the Knives Out mystery series, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I love the wordplay back and forth between Father Judd and the detective. I can't believe this is only the 3rd one, as I thought they would have milked it out by now with like 6 at least, but I'm so happy with the pace because it keeps me looking forward to it. This was a slower unfolding of the story than the others, with more of a focus on our main character's backstory, but the way it did develop was undeniably clever, and I thought it was a great evening well spent. And to wrap up all of the TV and movies that I wanted to talk about today, I have my last Indiana Jones, and this was the Dial of Destiny, and I gave this one a 3 stars. It was just okay for me. It felt senselessly violent, but I liked the feel of revisiting old enemies in a sense. Other than that, I couldn't really stand Wombat. It was too long, but it was also entertaining. And yeah, my friends, that wraps up all the movies and the TV shows that I watched in the last 3 months of 2025. If you have watched any of these yourselves and you have some views you'd like to share, do let me know. I would love to know. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I shall catch you in another video soon. Bye!